Hello and welcome to Ask TLC, which is our monthly Zoom presentation. We have with us today Dr. Marianne Terri Devine, and she is going to speak with us about a book she read recently, and we called the title of this presentation, The Art of Letting Go. So Terri, it's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Bonnie. Hello, everyone. It's so good to be here. I've been gone from the villages for a year, but I've never lost the interest and the love that I have for my TLC pals. A few weeks ago, I was talking to them about a book that came into my life just when I needed it. The name of the book is called The Let Them Theory, and it's by a woman named Mel Robbins. Mel Robbins is a wonderful podcaster. She's also an author of 7 or more books. She's an authority on anxiety, and I say that because she's lived it. And a lot of her podcasts reflect the the different events in her life that she's learned from. And this book, The Let Them Theory, is part of the Let Them Theory is learning that we cannot change people. People change when they want to, not when we want them to. We oftentimes think if I only said the right thing, or if I only was able to give this person what they needed. But that doesn't work. It really doesn't work. And the second part of the Let Them Theory book is the Let Me theory. And that's the part I really want to spend some time on today. The Let Them theory talks about the fact that we all have different kinds of relationships. And when we have relationships, sometimes those relationships get stuck and we're not able to balance out and find a convenient answer that would make both of us happy. It's kind of a negotiation that very often, because we're emotionally involved in a situation, we just don't know the words to say. So when you're in a situation like that, you need to know a little bit about communicating, about how relationships work. And the most important thing about how relationships work is understanding that relationships are kind of like a teeter-totter. When you first meet someone or when someone first comes into your life, whether they're a little baby or a big person, you're both at kind of in a one down position because first of all, we're not good at doing little babies if we've never had one before. And secondly, if we're dealing with the person equal to us, we want to make them happy. If we like them, we want to impress them. So we're doing the very best we can to be a good person, impress them, and to listen to them, which is primary. And they are too. But as time goes by, the teeter totter changes. And it changes for lots of reasons. It changes because maybe some person has a better position at work than another person. Or it changes because one person has a different kind of family than the other. But the imbalance comes back and forth and back and forth. And as we get to know someone, we get to understand the words that they need to hear to balance it. But very often it's so emotionally charged that we just keep talking and we just keep saying the same thing. When you are saying the same thing in a relationship, you're going to get the same thing, which happens to be the definition of being crazy. But that's another story. So when we're communicating, one of the things that's very important and that actually Mel Robbins really tries to help us with is you need to kind of wrap the communications in love. Let me give you an example. I received a letter from one of the people that were going to come to this presentation, and it was a lovely letter, and she said that she'd been reading the book, and I highly recommend that you read the book because it's very informative about many levels. But anyway, she said that she and her husband were a little older. They lived in the villages. They were retired. They didn't have anybody at home. They had fairly good health. And she said, we had so much time when we were younger and did so many things together. And I really enjoy my husband's company. And she said, but he doesn't want to do anything now that we're retired. He just wants to sit at home and watch TV. And she said, I like being with my friends and doing things outside the house, but I want to be with him. And she said, I don't know. He's not listening to me. I don't know how to express that. Well, one of the things that's very important in any relationship that is kind of stuck is for us to figure out, what do we truly want? And she seems to think she truly wants to spend more time with them. That's very clear. And I really want to acknowledge her for knowing that. So she says, I keep asking him to do things, but he's not changing. He's not listening. One of the things that we have to do once we're clear on what we want is we have to decide words that they're going to hear, not words that we want to say, words that will allow them to hear what we're saying. And I suggested to her, and would suggest to anybody, that when the stakes are high and it's important that they understand what you want, you write it down first. Write down what it is that you want to say. Because we don't have that much time between when we speak and when we react. Only 15 seconds. Only 15 seconds to do something different. If we don't plan it out, we keep doing the same thing. So one of the things I suggested was that she say to him, you know, I've talked about this to you before, and somehow you're not understanding what I'd really like. So first of all, I want to tell you how much I love being with you. I want to say, we have this life together. Let's make some more memories. And I really want you to tell me what's going on for you that you're not making that choice. If you write that down and it doesn't feel good to you, then you change it. You make the words that you want to say. But my theory is that you've got to wrap it in love so that people understand that you're not trying to change them. You're trying to understand them. Now, if this woman continues to do this, and if her husband continues not to do what she wants him to, then she has to take another strategy. And her strategy might be, you know, I've really tried to make you understand what I want and how much I enjoy your company, and that's not happening. And I'm wondering, how are you feeling? Are you feeling okay? Because when we get a little older, sometimes we get a little depressed. As we get older, we're not always making the not the vitamins, but the things that we need so that we're not depressed, the chemicals that we need in our body so that we continue to have a pretty even nature. Maybe he's a little depressed. So that could be something she could say, why don't we both get checked? Because I want this to be a happy time in our lives. Sometimes men have a problem with that, but they won't go to the doctor. So if you say we'll both go, that might be helpful. I suggest that you keep at it, but if he's not listening to you, then you have to deal with the fact that people don't change because you want them to. They change because they want to. One of the very important things that we need to deal with other people is understanding that they own their lives and we own our life. When you're stuck in these kind of situations, very often we have a tendency to talk to our friends about it. And one of the things that we do is, you know, we say, this is what's going on, and we share this with our friends, and they support our feelings. They support how we feel about it. And oftentimes by doing that, they may make the other person wrong. And you don't need that in a relationship. You don't need to listen to people that say, well, you're right and they're wrong. If you do like that, then you have to consider that you're making something a contest and you want to win. And when you want to win, And when you want to be right all the time, you make someone wrong. And nobody wants to be wrong all the time. It's just not human nature. When you're talking to these people, your friends, for support, do you sometimes feel like you're spending a lot of time in your head on this situation? When we spend a lot of time thinking about a situation, I want you to understand, because I have to understand, we all have to understand, is that that person is doing something that my brother calls renting space in our head. When you rent space in someone's head, or when they're in our head, they're taking up our power. They're taking up our time. And that's not healthy for anyone because the other person isn't changing. You are spending your life in an activity that is not giving you any kind of good things, nothing back. So you need to understand that that's creating anxiety in your body. If you are telling everybody and listening to everybody's answer, then you're not creating an answer for yourself. And all of us need to go inside and think quietly. Number one, like I said earlier, what is it that I really want? Number two, how can I say those words wrapped in love? But number three, how can I stay strong if I don't get my way, if things don't work out? We waste our lives and energy when we keep at it and we're not being what we call even a little bit successful. I don't recommend that you break off relationships when you don't get what you want, but I think it's really important. And I know that Mel Robbins says, don't waste your time. Switch that time. Switch that time from thinking if only I had the right words to I'm going to back off with this and try to find something that pleases me. I can't change another person until they're ready to change themselves. And one of the things that I think has been real successful is when you find yourself in these kind of situations, do something nice for someone else. It's kind of like get off yourself. I don't know how you are, but there are times when I just get sick of myself and say, stop it. And I try to move away from just thinking about myself or just thinking about a situation that I have no answer for. Going inside and learning about the quiet voice inside of you that has the answers is very valuable. That conversation inside your head that clearly states what you want and is willing to negotiate for that, that's the precious conversation that is your best friend and will be with you forever. So I highly recommend that you stay in contact with that. One of the things that I talked about when I asked you about, do you spend a lot of time thinking about these relationships, and do you spend time finding out information from other people? One of the reasons I asked you that is that when you do that, you're spreading all of your power out instead of concentrating it in one place. You're asking other people for answers instead of finding your own answers. And that's very, very important because it lessens or weakens your power. And I know that a couple of women have said to me about the book when we discussed it, well, I don't understand this power stuff. Your power is your control over your emotions in your life. It's not real complicated. It's a way to say, I will not do this, or I am willing to do this, but I need to control my life. I need to feel as though I'm a valuable person spending valuable time in this lifetime. And this woman who wants her husband to change, she really truly sounded to me like she loved him and she wanted to be with him. Those things are so important to share. I mean, I had this picture in my mind of her saying, George, I've said, get off the couch 100 times and you won't listen to me. George, listen to me. Well, George isn't going to listen because she said this 100 times. But if she says to George, I care about you, And honestly, none of us have that much time. Let's make memories. Let's do something positive together. George might listen a little better that way. There are barriers to our ability to communicate. There are things that come into our lives all the time that get in the way. One of them is, how do I separate the expectations of others, what others think I should do? How do I separate them from how I think? And it only takes quiet time. If you're always thinking about it and you're not making a shift in your own mind over these things, they aren't going to change. We need to work on ourselves. The most important thing is feeling very good about yourself. I think I mentioned to you, you need to not listen to other people. Stop comparing yourself to others. Because when you compare yourself to others, you don't have all the information. You only have part of an information. I think that you cannot please others. We need to know ourselves and what we stand for and what we want in any situation. This helps communication flow. It helps that teeter-totter be balanced. It helps all of us feel as though we're still in the game. You know, women are so much more verbal than men. So when you are talking about sharing your feelings with a man, just remember that they don't listen as long as we do. So say what you need to say and wrap it in something that you know that they understand and love. Another thing that I think that you need to do is to stop explaining your lives to other people, because they have thoughts about how your life should be. They want to tell you what the answers are. They're sure that they're right. But you need to kind of back that off when you're in a struggling situation with somebody you love, because it's important to you. It's more important to you than them. They only see part of what's going on, but you see all of what's going on. The other thing that you need to do that is a big barrier to these situations is you need to understand your life is what you can do best. Your life is what you can control best. What you want needs to be clear to you. Instead of, and I've seen this so many times in so many of my clients, they think, well, maybe I want this, but Joey said this, so maybe I want this. Get the maybes out. Think about what it is I need and want and how I want to live my life. Those are major questions. And we think about those questions forever. Just because we get older doesn't make the questions easier. Sometimes with the growing family, it makes the questions much more complicated. Mel Brooks feels as though we are losing if we are not clear about what we want in our lives. And so I really recommend that you use this book, that you go back to this book. I had a situation which really led me to the book. I had moved from the villages and I had moved to be closer to my daughter and my grandkids, which a lot of people are considering. And it was very significant to me, the adjustment, because I hadn't been with my family, my daughter and my grandchildren, for almost 20 years. My daughter left college and she didn't come home. My son left college and he didn't come home. We went to Florida. So now here I am back again, learning my children again and learning how they're living. And there was a struggle there because I didn't feel part of the family. I thought, oh, I'll move back there and I'll be part of the family. Well, it doesn't just happen. And so the struggle with me was, what words can I say so that they're going to understand that I want to be part of the family? And finally, I came up with words. And some of them were painful. It was not the most pleasant situation. But because I knew that my daughter loved me and I loved my daughter, I knew that we would work through it. That's where these situations come. I knew that there was love there. So later, when I was able to think about the situation, I could wrap what I needed in love. I think that you will have these on and off all of your life, but it's so important to say, I can handle it. I can take care of this. And to grieve it if you can't. That's part of this process. Understanding that we don't have the power over other people. And when we think about it, we don't want it. We don't want them to have power over us. So I'm encouraging you to think about the struggle that you might have with other people, to think about the good thing that you have, good things that you have with this person, and to say to yourself, what do I want? Wrap it in the good things and communicate it. And if it doesn't work, try something else. But please don't give your power away to them. Don't spend your time worrying about it, obsessing about it, talking to other people about it. It doesn't change the situation. What changes the situation is your positive approach to it. I hope today that I've given you some help. I'd love to know your questions. I appreciate you coming.